EACES.
Hola.
Vítejte. SYNAPSES Academy.
Welcome to the SYNAPSES Academy podcast, a podcast in which experts from various fields provide their tips on sustainability citizenship in education. Sustainability, sustainable citizenship, sustainability citizenship, and all of this in education. The Synapses views come from the concept of sustainability citizenship. But what is it and why is it so important? Today we will discuss this concept and its significance with Professor Franz Bogner, who holds a chair in the field of biology education and who is the brain behind the concept. Enjoy. Welcome, Professor Bogner.
Hello.
So to start off, could you tell us a little bit more about your research field in your own words?
Yeah, I jumped into this field 30 years ago from a science point of view, and then I did all the empirical research. Empirical research means when you produce numbers, the numbers should be numbers. That means this is a lot of psychometric stuff, of psychology issues, of statistics, of questioning people, and extracting from a very complex issue more or less simple messages.
That sounds nice. And then somewhere in those 20 years, at some point, the concept of sustainability citizenship came up. Where did this, within your research, come from?
Yeah, the original idea was to make a complex story, which is ecology, simple. And when you make it simple, you have to make sure that your message is bought by the kids. And therefore, you have to find ways to measure this. And therefore, we learned about measuring attitudes, measuring reported behavior, which are soft variables. But of course, you need to make soft variables into solid numbers. And this was more or less the research of the last 20 years.
Yes, in order to be able to measure them. And you said that this has been successful. So you have been able to measure and implement successful research.
Yeah, we introduced more or less the methods of science into science education. That means in science, a result is a result when the competing groups are coming to the same result and confirming it. And this happened the first time in our field after 5 years after we published the first model. And then we increasingly worked in that way to make the model even more complex, but without losing validity.
So more complex, but also more usable.
Yeah, the problem with sustainability citizenship is not just one issue. It's very, very complex.
Yes.
And when you ask young kids more than 60, 70 questions, they run away.
That doesn't work. No.
And therefore, you have to make a very complex story simple without losing validity. And this is the artwork of doing this kind of research.
Yeah. And when you say you have to make this very complex model simple, what is the simple message that you try to bring out? What does sustainability citizenship refer to?
Yeah, we reduced the sustainable citizenship to 3 columns. The first column, of course, is knowledge. The second column is the attitudes. And the third column is the behavior. And behavior normally is the final variable where all the interventions are dealing with. Because we want to produce, or no, let's not say like produce, we want to shift young kids to better citizenship, that they are behaving better than we are doing.
Do you think we're going to be there? Dot on the horizon?
Yeah. Let's say it this way. Of course, you cannot expect pills against earthquakes, but you are able to really produce small shifts. We know it from our own life that when you decide to do a revolution, it does not work. It has to be an evolution, step by step. And this is in a school year. In a school time, we have about 8 to 10 years time to do this, and I think it is done very properly in many European syllabi.
Yeah. Well, I think I have a very nice, simple, not definition, but concept of sustainability citizenship. Those 3 pillars. I think that's a very nice, easy way of thinking about it. So our listeners are head teachers and teachers. How can they use this? How can this benefit them in their practice?
Yeah, let me answer this in another way. You know, the sustainable citizenship, how we measure it is the ivory tower. And of course, in the SYNAPSES project, the ivory tower meets the classroom. That means we have to find ways how it could be translated by teacher, and teacher normally are 10, 20, 30 years in office. It means that their study time is also way back in the past. And this is the challenge of this project, to bring the different, players together.
But it's still the goal of SYNAPSES to bring it to the classroom and to make it understandable and usable. Maybe it's nice to hear, because we're a little bit on the way. We're working with a lot of professionals. How from the project or from the problem that you have, from the problem that you have formulated and from all the models that you've created and seen, which direction should we be looking at?
Yeah, the direction is that we intervene with the behavior of the young kids. And how it is be done, this is the responsibility of the teacher, because they have the experience to, first of all, about the curriculum, then which kind of implementation works, which kind of implementation is received in the best way by classes, and therefore we need the expertise of the teacher. Otherwise, we cannot really come out of our ivory tower. Right.
So SYNAPSES is also a place where, well, as a synapse, where the classroom meets research and form a new node. I think maybe you can say this better, but really work together, come together. Okay.
Yeah, and we know from our research that the young kids have different phases. You know, a 12-year-old kid has other attitudes than a 16-year-old, and another one than a 20-year-old. It's a slight decrease from the 12-year to 16, and then it's going up again. That means our students, who are normally 19, 20, 21, they have already better attitudes, better preferences than a 16-year-old, but not as good as an 11 or 12-year-old. That means you have to know the background of the kids, that you really can apply the optimum implementation for that. Right. This is the help which we want to give the kids, the teacher.
Because that's super interesting, indeed, knowing what those differences are, and when maybe also how you can recognize it in their behavior. Maybe that's a step further, I can imagine. But I think that is incredibly valuable. So also this type of behavioral study is on the core of SYNAPSES.
When we do a study, of course we know much more than a teacher knows. A teacher has a classroom. But since we apply a questionnaire before, after, and 1 or 2 months later, we know after the study very well where did a student start, which level did he reach, and to which level he or she dropped down again. For a teacher, this is just gut feeling. And we have the options, not for all students, but for some students, to follow them and find ways to understand how an implementation really was successful or even less successful. This sometimes also happens that kids just learn and nothing else is intervened with.
I think this is actually a very clear explanation of the concept. Still very broad, but that is what it is. Behavioral sciences is just broad, is wide, and there's many things to do. I'm gonna try and ask you to give some piece of advice, because if you could give teachers and school heads one piece of advice on how they can start implementing sustainability citizenship in their schools, a small activity that takes very little time, very little money, just one tiny step, what could that be?
First of all, I would say we do a bottom-up approach. That means we give a teacher the chance to apply his approach where he or she is convinced that it is the best one. And then we are coming in and following this approach, and maybe we come to the same result, maybe we come to a different one, and maybe we can even explain why we come to a different one. But this is research. You never know the outcome.
So would you maybe say, as a teacher, they should reach out to you to collaborate? Would that be one step already?
Yeah, this we do since the last 30 years. Yeah. Without the teacher and without the students, it would have been not possible to develop this model, because then the model would have no foundation. You need a foundation. That means you need you need a valid knowledge about the reliability, validity, and so on. And we had several studies where we decided not in the correct way. That means we realized, okay, we have to go back, we have to repeat this, and we have to go the other direction. But this is the job of science.
About the concept of sustainability, is there anything else you would like to say?
Yeah, sustainability, of course, the stage where we are right now, maybe it is a too simple stage. When we, let us say, look at the future for the next 20 years or so. It's a development. Right now we have the situation that we are convinced that we are on a safe side, because 5 different groups in the world confirmed it. If 6 groups are not on the wrong way, okay, this could also happen, but it's unlikely. But we will further work on adding other variables. Right now we have 3 columns, maybe in the future we have 4 and we have 5. But when we do a project to bring ivory tower into the practice, we have to have a look where we are now and not where we might be in 10 years. And therefore, this project I really like, because now we can really have a look to the foundations. And we have the promise that maybe we really contribute to a better citizenship for the next generation.
I really hope so. I've got one final question, which is not related to the concept of sustainability citizenship, also not to your research, because I wanted to ask if you would be willing to share one piece of climate advice that maybe you have incorporated in your daily life that listeners could learn from.
Yeah, this question everybody has to respond to answer for himself. I live as a vegetarian, and therefore my ecological footprint is a little bit lower than on the average, but still high.
Yes.
We have to really acknowledge that our footprints are still too high. It means we also have to work on our lifestyles, and not just on the lifestyles of the young generation.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all do our best. Yeah. All right, that was it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You were listening to an episode of the SYNAPSES Academy podcast. For more information about SYNAPSES or to learn more about our speakers, please look up the links in the show notes. This production was funded by the European Union and produced by the European Schoolheads Association. Views and opinions expressed are, however, those of the consortium only and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union. Neither the European Union nor the granting authority can be held responsible for them.